Does Social Security need saving? Providing for retirees throughout the 21st century by Dimitri Papadimitriou and L. Randall Wray. Ratio of workers to dependents. The coming crisis can be examined from another vantage point. Changes in the ratio of the number of workers to the numbers of retirees over the 75-year span. Not surprisingly, given assumptions about rising longevity and lower fertility rates, workers of the future will have to support relatively more retired people than workers do now. As Figure 3, left-hand scale, shows, the number of OASDI beneficiaries per 100 covered workers reached 31 in 1975 and will hold relatively steady until 2010. It will then rise steadily throughout the remainder of the 75-year period, reaching 56 in 2075. To put it another way, while we now have just over 3.3 workers per beneficiary, we will have fewer than 1.8 by 2075. The rise in the ratio of beneficiaries to workers makes it appear that the burden on future workers will increase by something less than a factor of 2. However, if we add the under age 20 population to the 65 and over population to obtain a dependent population, we find that workers in 1965 supported more dependents than any generation will through the year 2075. The dependency ratio, the ratio of dependents to workers, was nearly 0.95 in 1965. See Figure 3, right-hand scale, indicating that each person of normal working age supported about one person who was not of normal working age. That ratio fell to 0.71 by 1995 and will continue to fall slightly through 2010. It will rise to only 0.83 in 2075. Thus, although it is true that the number of people 65 and over, most of whom will be supported by people of working age, will rise relative to the number of workers, the combination of lower birth rates and more women in the labor force has actually reduced the burden of supporting those under age 20 by more than enough to offset the growing burden of supporting the aged. We realize, of course, that the needs of the dependent elderly differ from those of the dependent young. Also, the attitude of the working population toward paying payroll taxes to support grandma and grandpa is certainly different from its attitude toward using net income to care for children at home. On the other hand, there can be no doubt that providing for the educational, housing, and recreational and medical needs of the young baby boomers in the 1950s and 1960s represented a large transfer of real resources toward production of the goods and services consumed by those under age 20, and much of that transfer was accomplished through the tax system as workers and property owners were taxed whether they had children or not. Further, it must be remembered that the typical family that was supporting baby boom children under age 20 had only one breadwinner. The typical family that will be paying taxes to take care of retired baby boomers will have 2 wage earners.